So I sense that it would be good to talk about grace yet once again because it's so important. When we receive the vision of what the Lord is inviting us into, to cooperate with Him in the building of church, that again, sometimes our natural tendency would look at all what seems to be the insurmountable obstacles that have to be hurdled before the Lord's church would look like His church. And we understand that we have a part to play in that, and we kind of look to our resources, and we look back to our experience, and when we see the magnitude of what we're invited into, we still are we have to pause and we are stunned, and some actually even stumble and wonder, how can I possibly do this? I don't know what I'm doing. If that's the case, then I join you. I don't know what I'm doing either. But that's not the point. He knows what He's doing. And grace is saying, well, let me put it this way. Paul talks to Timothy and he says to be strong in the grace that is in our Lord Jesus Christ. And I love that verse because it seems to contradict what we would understand grace to mean. How can you be strong in a gift? How can you be strong in something that you've received? How can you be strong in that? I mean, I know I can be strong with my own strength, but I don't know how I can be strong, at least not initially, in the grace of Jesus Christ. But Paul knew what he was saying, and I know now what he's saying, and we all should be able to rejoice in that. That our strength is supposed to be in Jesus Christ. That is, we couldn't do what God is asking us to do if we weren't in Jesus Christ. I mean, if you were literally inside of Jesus Christ and the Father asked you to do something, you would think it'd be easy. And the truth is, you literally are in Jesus Christ, right? Because the mystical union doesn't mean that it's not real. Just because spiritual things are not immediately apprehended with our physical eyes, it does not mean it's not more real than the very ground that we're standing on or the breath that we're breathing. There is a reality that's ultimate reality, and ultimate reality is that Jesus Christ is in us and we're in Him. And it's given to us as a gift. Some of the reformers would talk about by sola fide, faith alone. Some would also say gratia soli, which is grace alone. But really what it is ultimately, it's love alone. You see, God gives Himself to us because He loves us. God gives everything to us because He loves us. He doesn't do it because we were good or because we deserve it. We know that intellectually. But sometimes we think, you know what? I've been faithful. I deserve a blessing right now. That's not being strong in the grace of Jesus Christ. That's being strong in our own selves, and that steals joy, and it becomes a burden, and it is wearisome to serve the Lord that way. When we understand grace the way the Lord does, which is love given generously, we come to a place where we say, in my heart of heart, I'm convinced it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about how good I am. It's not how hard I try. It's not how long I've been trying. It's not anything innately of myself. It is a gift. So where's the stress then? Where's the stress about being so loved that God would give Himself generously to us? I mean, tell me at the point where I should have anxiety in my relationship with God, when He has given Himself so fully and completely that should just melt away because of His love. As John says, perfect love casts out all fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. So, How do you get strong in grace? You get strong in grace when you honor the love that you've received, when you recognize, when you soak in the love that you've received. In our culture, we really don't, and we're losing it all the more, the sense of honoring. You know, when someone, like, for instance, someone gives you a gift, you want to return the honor by giving them thanks. And you might write a card or write a note of some sort to acknowledge it. Now, if you didn't do that, it doesn't mean the gift would be taken away. But there'd be something kind of not right about the relationship. You're not receiving the gift as something personally given, as an expression of love, and therefore you're not really thinking, well, why should I thank them? It's because we've lost a sense of how to receive love, how to receive honor. So many people really don't dwell on the love of God. The way you receive grace is you dwell in it. As you think like you've been graced, that is someone, God has been generous to you, and you let yourself be in awe of it for a while. You don't simply say, great, that part of my life is all set up. That's fixed. You know, the insurance policy's in place, or, you know, God and I, we're okay. So now I can go on with my life. That's not honoring. The love of God is so great that you want to stop and acknowledge it for what it is. So there's a man who loves a woman and loves her very deeply, and he wants to give his life to her. He's bought a ring at a great expense, his year's salary, but really, it's not the ring, it's what it symbolizes. He wants to give his life to this woman. So he finally goes to this woman and invites her to dinner, and he brings out the ring. And her first response, that's beautiful. And she said, but I don't know if I can really enter into this relationship at marriage quite yet. And he says, well, just take the ring, look at it, think about it, and in a week I'll come back. And you tell me the decision that you've made. So he is so looking forward to this next dinner date where she is going to give her response to him. And so he's at that very nice restaurant, and he's waiting at the table, and she's like 5 minutes late. Well, it's now 15 minutes. An hour and a half passes by, and he's thinking, what happened? And then suddenly she runs in. She says, I'm sorry. I forgot all about this. I can't believe I forgot about it. So I'm so sorry. And so she sits down, and he says to her, well, what have you decided? And she said, about what? Well, you know, last week, you know, I gave you the ring, and I said, oh, yeah. You know, I don't know where I put it. I put it on the table, I think, but then, you know, things are kind of a mess, and I forgot all about it. Obviously, a marriage is not going to be consummated, and the primary reason is not his fault. And really, it's not because she didn't work at it. She didn't think about it. She didn't contemplate it. She didn't receive the fact that this man really loves her and wants to give his whole life to her, to bless her as her husband. So that's just a simple, almost comic analogy, because of course what we're saying is, here's the Son of God. Here's the great I am, the eternal Lord of glory, the one who is, was, always will be, the one who is perfect, eternal in nature. And he comes to us and he says to us, I love you. I want to give you myself. I want to give you my kingdom. I want to not only forgive you, but I want to make you just like me so that you can receive everything that I am. Because my desire is to give you everything that I am. And why do I desire this? I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you not the way a human being might be in love with someone. I know you. I know you completely. And I say I'm in love with you. I'm not just being carried away by emotion. The emotions are there. I know who you are. And I love you. And nothing will change that. And I'm offering myself to you. And now it's not a ring, but it's a cross. On the cross, I'm saying to you, I love you this much, and I would do it again and again and again if it would mean that you could be with me in my kingdom and that you could know my Father the way I know my Father, so that your joy might be full, so that you would be filled with the very same Spirit I am filled with, so that you could have the power to be able to receive and to know the love of God. I am here to give myself to you, and I'm always going to be here because my Spirit, I tell you, I promise you, I pledge to you, my Spirit will be with you, and my Spirit will constantly communicate myself to you. Anytime you stop to dwell on my love, and you say, Lord, thank you for your love. I receive your love. I wish to honor your love. You will know it yet more. You enter deeper into a place to receive the grace that was always offered to you and to me. So it says in Ephesians, this passage, which I know we know, Ephesians 2:8 and 9. For by grace you have been saved through faith. So by the energy and passion and devotion of God given freely, you have been brought into a union with me, which is saving from the corruption of the world and the corruption that you were born in. And this is through faith. This means trust. You're just trusting that I am who I say that I am. When I say I love you, you receive that and you cherish that. It says, for by grace you've been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not as a result of anything that you can do, so that no one may boast. You know, sometimes people are kind of concerned when they have a spiritual gift that they might, be prideful. Well, it's just because they aren't strong in the grace of God. See, the thing is, the reality is this. We do have a will. And it has to be open. To be able to say yes. To be able to receive. That's it. All done. Am I exaggerating? Talk to me. Do you really think that you're just saved by grace? Is it like you don't have to do anything at all? You have to receive. So why is it at times you get triggered and you think that you do? What's happening inside of us? Why is that? Actually, this isn't for a word of condemnation. Why is that? We don't savor the love of God. We move past it so quickly. In our culture especially. Really, saying yes is basically a choice to honor the Lord's love. So if you want to view it, our yes is shown through giving honor. Now know this, you can't give honor by being forced. That's not honor. That's capitulating to a power that you might get in trouble if you don't comply with. That's not honor. That's not honor. To So it's like, well, you got to honor that person. Well, I don't really like that person. It's like, well, then you're done. You can't honor them. You're going to have to come to a place where you say, I want to give myself to that person in some way. Now, of course, there's lots of things to be worked out in that when it comes to the mortal sphere. But with God, it's automatic. Well, it's just to receive. So in this story, we see this man who was not in wedding garment. And he goes to the place of gnashing of teeth. He goes to Hades. And you might think, well, that's pretty severe. Well, actually, you're actually provided a wedding garment if you don't have it. So it's like a choice not to even take on an appropriate garb for this wedding feast. And the person is basically saying, I'm just here for the eats. I'm not here to honor the Son. I'm not here to honor the Father. I'm here to get. Anytime that we have this perspective, even in the church, that I'm here to get, you can't honor. Because what we're assuming is you've received so much. You and I have received the infinity of the love of God at an infinite price. And in that, it becomes clear that that's how the Lord values us. People pay for things that they think it's what it's worth. So if no one's going to pay $20 for a pack of toothpicks, it's not worth that. You'll just find something else to use at that price. And many people may not understand that you, in the Lord's sight, are worth the blood of Jesus Christ. Could you be affirmed any more than that? Could you be valued any more than that? It's cosmically impossible. The Lord wants us to make space. And one of the ways that we make space is we make a choice. We participate in salvation by saying yes. And we're receiving the gift of being able to enjoy the union by making a choice to honor him back. Just to honor him. And that is to let him lead. So we know the story. I mean, how many times have we heard it, and I myself have said it, about, Martha and Mary, right? So Martha's doing all this preparation, all the food, everything else. Jesus is right there. Mary's seated at his feet. And, of course, Martha gets a gentle rebuke from the master saying, Martha, Martha, you're busy about so many things, but only one thing is needful. She wanted to prepare a nice plate for the master. What's wrong with that? That's not what the Lord wanted. That's what's wrong with it. See, it's honoring according to how the Lord would see honor. I know once someone gave me a gift and they thought it was a really cool thing, and I had no place for it. I had no use for it at all, but they thought it was really neat, and they just didn't really know me. But I appreciated it, of course. But to honor someone, you know them and you give them what would be really helpful or would really bless them. And that's the relationship the Lord is asking us to have with him. Just that we say, Lord, what would please you? Now, why would we ask that question? Well, we've been smitten. We've received the love of God, and we want to return the love of God. We don't have to say that. And you know what? If we don't say that, he'll still love us just as much. If we turn our backs on him, he'll love us just as much. Really, he will. Really, just as much. Jesus loved Judas just as much as he loved Paul. Judas rejected the love. Paul continually received it and pressed in to know it more. But it didn't change God's attitude toward anyone, to either one of them. And so, brothers and sisters, when we are called, well, first, let me just take one moment to ask you a real question, and you could give real answers, so it's not rhetorical. Is there any way where salvation, what is your part to salvation? Is this like overstated because we're saying grace alone saves? Is that what you're really comfortable with saying? Is there something that you think I'm being over dramatic? And you say, well, Jordan, I think you're forgetting, and that would be fill in the blank. What would that be? Anyone? Well, then we also, to be able to receive grace, we have to be gracious to ourselves. So the Lord has freely forgiven you. If you are ever down on yourself, if you ever constantly chide yourself, it means you haven't fully received the grace, and then at that moment, you stop and you receive it. And you give it to yourself. And you give it to others. Grace makes people gracious. The more grace that we've received, the more we want to be gracious to others, generous to others, generous of heart. In the parable of the sower, I'm just going to end with this. In the parable of the sower, it talks about the one who received the seed and received as a return 50, 100-fold. And Jesus said, that's the person that has a good and honest heart. Or in the Greek, it could be a generous and honest heart. The heart that is open to receive and open to give. That's where the seed is sown. And that's when it's able to actually grow. We don't grow the seed in ourselves, and we don't manufacture the seed. He gives the seed, and he gives the growth. We just have to say, Lord, thank you for giving me this seed. You gave it to me. I, with gratitude, receive it, and I'm thanking you now, too, for the growth that you yourself will give, that you will give, that you will give, and I will receive. I know that will please you, and it certainly pleases me, and it will please all those who know me, because I will give a testimony of how good of a God you are, and they will believe me, because I've received grace upon grace, like John said. I've received the Lord himself, the greatest gift any mortal could ever receive. Amen.